my name's Charlie and welcome to my channel and welcome to my weekly reads. How are you guys? Have you had a good week? What you been up to? Just tell me all the things and so we can have a good old conversation as always. I love chatting to you guys. Right, so before I get into all the natty stuff, as always, I'm going to talk to you about the books that I finished since the last time I've spoken to you and what I'm currently reading, obviously. So the first book I finished last weekend, which is The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese, and I loved this book. I have to say, I loved it. It's a very long book. It's 720 pages. It's historical fiction, predominantly set in India. We follow it as we follow a few different perspectives, but the main two perspectives we follow are a young girl at the beginning of the book in India, and she has been betrothed to a man in the village, so she goes off, and obviously you follow her tale. Then you go to Glasgow and we have Digby, and Digby is a doctor and goes over to India as part of the Indian medical service sort of thing. So obviously he goes over and progresses his career through India. That's basically thing. So, and then it's how the two narratives eventually, well, they meet and then they don't meet and then they meet again, sort of thing. So yeah, that's predominantly it. You do get other voices and other yeah, and I've spoke about this in last week's weekly read, so I'll just be brief about it. But yeah, I stormed through the last bit of it, and yeah, I just feel like the way it was all sewn up at the end I really liked. I thought it was done really, really well. Yeah, I just think I definitely would want to read more by this author, and yeah, I'm so pleased that I read it. So yeah, I do think that my one critique with this book is that I do think it could have been edited down slightly. There were certain sections that did feel like they dragged a little bit, but overall the characterization and I loved, and I felt like the story was one that was sort of beautifully told, and I feel like it's one that would increase on a reread. I'm not rushing out to reread this one, don't get me wrong guys, but yeah, I feel like there were certain nuggets and things that you found out by the end that I feel like on a reread you would just gain even more from knowing, obviously, as is the case of all rereading, which is why I like to do it, obviously. I also finished Outrageous. I spoke about this again in last week's weekly reads, and this is about Section 28, which is a law that was passed in the UK in 1988, I believe, which forbid school teachers teaching and talking about so-called promoting homosexuality in schools, and it had numerous effects, all of which this book goes into. And I think it's really, really well crafted non-fiction, and yeah, I can't wait to read all the other books by Paul Baker. Yeah, it's a strong non-fiction. Yeah, so yeah, good. I also finished reading Like a Curse by Elle McNicoll. Again, I spoke about this in last week's weekly read, so I'll put a link to that in the description. This is the second in a, so it's of duology, I would say, and this Elle McNicoll makes this into more of a series, I do not know. And in this book we continue to follow Ramya Knox, and this book, the first book was set in Edinburgh, and we follow her sort of going on these magical adventures, and in this book it continues from there, but we're in Loch Ness. So, and this was equally delightful. I just love Elle McNicoll's books. I could talk about them till the cows come home. If you haven't read a middle grade book by Elle McNicoll, please pick one up, because any of the ones that she's written are just gorgeous. So yeah, and this is a great little series. So yeah, this was the first book being Like a Charm, obviously. So that's that. Right. Picked up and read sort of more or less one sitting. I mean, it looks quite a big book, but obviously it's a graphic novel. This is a non-fiction by Mira Jacob, and it's a memoir, and it's written, it was her basically talking to her son about race and identity, and this book has content warnings for 9/11. Some of this stuff is obviously set, but she was referring to 9/11 in this book, so yeah, there's content warnings for all of that, and obviously all the racial abuse that Mira Jacob faced as a brown woman living in America. So yeah, it's just really, really interesting. Again, thought-provoking, and yeah, I think that Mira Jacob currently has a, to my knowledge, debut, a fiction, another fiction that for me to head to. I really, really enjoyed like how she wrote this, so I feel like I definitely would want to read more books by her, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this is a really, really good non-fiction, very interesting, and I love like in the book also she sort of, it's very conversational. It's a very, very conversational graphic novel. Obviously, that's what it's designed to be. So then when I was at the library on Monday, I saw this book and I just wanted to pick it up, read it and talk to you guys about it, because some of you guys have kids and etc. And this is Granddads Camper, and I know lots of you guys like reading like picture books like me. And this is by Harry Woodgate, and this is a story of a granddad whose husband has passed away, and he's talking to his granddaughter about like the journeys that he used to go on in the camper van, and it was just gorgeous. The pictures are really lovely. It's super cute, very colourful, with a clear but simple message. So yeah, this is a fun little picture book and I enjoyed it. So that's all the books that I have read. Now I'm going to talk to you about the ones I'm currently reading / my reading plans. So the ones I'm currently reading, I'm still listening to Small Joys, picture on screen, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I've still got quite a ways to go because I haven't really been listening again to too much audiobooks. I did listen to a bit yesterday when I was doing tidying. Hopefully I will finish that maybe by the end of the week, or maybe by the end of next week, hopefully. We shall see. The next book I'm going to talk to you about is a middle grade called Alice Austen Lived Here by Gino. In this book, we follow two non-binary kids who are at school, and they've been set an assignment to write, do a presentation about a historical figure who from Staten Island, and it's because there's going to be like it's a competition for like a statue that's going to be built. I think that's right. I think that's right. I'm about halfway through this book, so yeah, it is right. And yeah, they find out about Alice Austen, and Alice Austen, which I didn't realise about when I picked this book up, is an actual real person, and she was a photographer, and she was queer, and she was, I guess, kind of like almost like a bit of a trendsetter, I would say, and yeah, very ahead of her time. So yeah, that was actually interesting, because I feel like I'm going to want to go right and Google loads of stuff about her. Yeah, it's just really, really fun. It's like 160 pages. I'm halfway through. It's just very light-hearted, very fun, and just wonderful to have two non-binary protagonists in a middle grade book. I love to see this. Yeah, great book. The next book I'm going to talk to you about is Neon Roses by Rachel Dawson. This is a book that is set in the 1980s in Wales, and we follow our lead character of Earnaux, and she at the beginning of the book is in this sort of like kind of relationship that I feel like she's not really happy in. I think there was a lot of expectations on her to get married to this guy, so there's discussions sort of around that. And then also her sister, I believe, is in a relationship with a policeman, and it sort of talks about how the police were in that time, and how that sort of, you can feel the influence of Thatcher in this era strongly. And what happens is that apparently, which hasn't happened yet, obviously, because I've only read a couple of chapters, is there's going to be a group of queer people / lesbians coming up from London, apparently, yeah, she meets one of them and kind of gets into a relationship with one of them. This is what I gather. By the way, I'm obsessed with this cover. I love the cover of this book. That was one of the main reasons I picked it up, other than the plot, obviously. So that was that. I think that is all the books that I'm currently reading, etc. In terms of reading plans, I've got a couple, obviously, of other things. There's a few other things I've got planned. So Monday, the 17th of January starts. Where did January come from? I do not know. It's July. The 17th of July. The Frankenstein read-along. I've got the physical copy, but I've also going to be listening on, this is being held by Jack from Spread Book Joy and Angie's Book Chatter. I will link their channels in the description. and their announcement video of this read along. Yeah, it's going to be we're going to be the idea is that you could I think it's like we're going to be listening to reading a couple of chapters a day. It's going to be very low key. We're going to be discussing it. There's a Voxer group that the ladies have set up, and yeah, I can't wait to re-listen to this book. And the Audrey app that Jack has been recommending for ages is something that I'm super excited to sort of get onto, because there's loads of other elements on there that will hopefully make the book more digestible and also have more of a conversation around it. So yeah, if you want to know more about Audrey, check out Jack's video. She talks about it, and she's got other videos about the Audrey app as well. But yeah, I'm going to be probably doing a combined read of having the physical copy and listening to it, because sometimes that's easier, especially with classics. I'm going to, as soon as I finished reading this as my bedtime book, if you guys have watched, you'll know I've been having like a bedtime book. As soon as I finished having this as my bedtime book, my next bedtime book, my plan is to read Emma by Jane Austen. This is one that you guys voted on, so thank you guys, everyone that's voted for it. I'm planning on starting this in the evenings, because I feel like this is like another cozy classic, and I can read a few chapters a day and hopefully get through it. If this spills over into my August reading, I won't be upset. I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself. Don't get competitions for reading books, do we? So yeah, I'm excited to properly start this. I did read like a paragraph of it. So yeah, that's that. And in terms of, so when I was in the library this week, I picked up a book. Obviously this is what happens to me. It was in the new section, and it's called Go as a River by Shelley Reid. This book is set in autumn it says 1948 in Colorado. So I think it's like a coming of age story, and I think it's sort of, it says Go as a River is a heart-wrenching coming of age story and a drama of enthralling power, combining unforgettable characters and a breathtaking natural setting. It is a sweeping story of survival and becoming, and of the deepest mysteries of love, truth and fate. And I feel like, yeah, there's this like sliding doors moment in the book where something happens to the lead character kind of thing, I think. I don't know until I read it. I hopefully will read it, because it just sounds so gorgeous. But I've also got to read the books on my shelves, which is something I'm going to talk to you about next. Right, the next thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is I was chatting to Charlie, as I do. Me and Charlie talk every single day. Charlie from Charles Heathcote, channel's linked in the description as always. And we were basically saying how we really need to read books from our shelves, and sort of, I guess we're like halfway through the month at this point, and we were like, I think we sort of set each other a challenge that about reading. We picked so we've each picked 5 books to read, preferably by the end of the month. I don't know whether it's going to be by the end of the month, but one of them, especially, each of us have been on. We've got books that have been on our shelves for quite a while. So yeah, so Charlie's book that has been on his shelves the longest is Great Circle, and my book on my shelves the longest is The Known World by Edward P. Jones. So yeah, Charlie's been challenged to read Great Circle. I don't know whether Charlie will actually read it, and I'm challenging to read The Known World by the end of this month. And then also I've got 4 other books additionally from my shelves to read as part of our reading from our shelves challenge. It's kind of like the challenge that we've set each other has been inspired by a mashed potato challenge that Charlie watches. There's a podcast called Books Unbound, which is by Ariel Bissett and her friend, which I can't remember, Raylene I think it is. And so Charlie always watches that, and they always like challenge each other to sort of read books, and in May I think they did this whole reading from their shelves thing. So this is what this challenge is about, basically. So the next 4 books that I've said that I'm going to read, that I've told Charlie I'm going to try and read this month, watch this space if I actually do, is I'm going to finish Neon Roses, because that's kind of a half cheat because I was already starting it. I want to read Open Water by Caleb Azumah Nelson, because I loved Small Worlds. This Caleb Azumah Nelson will be featured on a video that's coming up next week. Can you guess what that is? So yeah, and so that's one I definitely want to read. That's so short. Like, I feel like I could read this. I want to try and read this weekend. Like, can I? Can I really? Will I? I don't know. Will I? And then I also really want to read The Years by Annie Ernaux. This was kindly sent to me by Alice from Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Alice is another awesome creator who's one of my bookish friends on here, obviously, and she sent this to me last year, so I definitely want to try and read that in the next few weeks. And lastly, but not leastly, the book that me and Charlie both said, we came to that we each picked 4 books, and the last book, we were trying to think of a last book to read, and I had said one to Charlie, but Charlie was like, oh, why don't we read, and I'm going to show you this book, which is Thrust by Lidia Yuknavitch. This is a book that me and Charlie were championing last year without having ever read it, and this is purely based upon the fact of this cover, which me and Charlie think is iconic. Like, we freaking love this cover. This cover is just everything. We were joking about having like prints made of this cover. This book has a lot to live up for just from the cover alone. So and what we did when we were FaceTiming last week, actually Charlie read page 99, and I think on that page, if I recall, there was something about a purple umbilical cord. So I feel like this is going to be quite surreal, quite like environmental messaging. I don't know whether it's going to be either of our bags. We could end up hating it, but I don't know. Please no. So yeah, this has got high expectations from both me and Charlie. Yeah, so that's like my little challenge Charlie thing that we've got. Go to check out Charlie's channel if you want to see which books he has picked for our challenge Charlie. For our Charlie challenge, or our challenge Charlie, I don't know what it's called. Yeah. So you guys make a guess in the comments how many of the 5 by the end of the month I would have actually read. Feel free to do that, and then we can come back and check up on ourselves. I'm definitely gonna try and finish this. I really want to read this. I want to read all of them, but I get distracted by other books, as you could tell from the library books. And I'm still going to the library, obviously picking up books. So yeah, that's enough of me ranting on and going on. I've had a really good week. I feel like it's flown by this week. It feels busy and then quiet in the same breath. So yeah, let me know what you guys have been up to. I have got some plans tomorrow. I'm hoping they don't get rained off, because it's going to be due to rain in the UK tomorrow. So I hope I don't get soggy where I go. I'll talk to you about that all next week, I'm guessing. So yeah, and then we've got some holidays coming up, and that will be crazy. So yeah, take care, and sending you guys lots of love. Goodbye.